I won't even lie, this is a vintage lens, so I pray that it is in focus. Hopefully. Last week I made a video on how to shoot with artificial light, and I broke down dimension, color, atmosphere, and creative experimentation. So if you haven't already seen it, I definitely recommend checking that one out. But today I'm gonna break down how to shoot cinematic video using only natural light. This video will be broken down into 5 sections: shadow side, time of day, weather, flares, and authenticity. And make sure you stay until the end, because I would say that authenticity is one of the more important aspects of shooting with only natural light. But let's get into it. Number 1 is the shadow side. I won't spend too much time on this one because it is a very common tip, but it is very, very important. So whenever you are shooting video, you want to make sure that you are shooting on the shadow side of your subject. This will allow for more dimension, and it will help your character stand out a little bit. One thing I have learned from shooting with natural light is the light triangle. Sometimes I see people shoot backlit and it is technically correct. However, you are using the sun as your light and it is extremely powerful, so it usually blows out the sky and then ends up tanking the shadows of your subject. With the light triangle, you can think about it as having the subject in front of your camera and then having the light source to the side or the back side of your subject. This will allow you to keep a ton of data in the sky and then split the light on your character. There are some times where backlighting will be needed, but usually split lighting your main subject allows for the most amount of play in post as well as the most pleasing image. Number 2 is the time of day. Don't be scared of high noon. Everyone always talks about how you should shoot only in golden hour or blue hour, but I feel like I get a lot of really good images during the day as well. There are a few things that are definitely extremely important if you are going to shoot in the middle of the day. One of them is to find shade for your subject. This will allow you to keep the contrast and the color throughout the image and the background, but it will help soften up the harshness on your subject. But let's say you need to shoot a scene during the middle of the day and there is no shade. The biggest thing is to make sure you expose properly. Focus on not clipping any reflections or any of the shine on people's skin. Another thing I kind of realized was I like using lower apertures when I shoot in the sun, because it almost helps soften up the entire image. That way the harsh lines and shadows are equally met with the soft bokeh and the roll-off. This is definitely something that is more subjective, but I just noticed that I would shoot at 1.4 or 1.8 whenever the subject was outside right in the sun. I do recommend shooting in golden hour if you can, because you can use that triangle of light that I mentioned earlier and then really accentuate the subject and the background. One big thing with shooting at golden hour is just trying to make sure your sky is intact. I shot this scene and the shots that were facing the direction of the sunset were just completely blown out, and it really made them look more amateur, but the ones where I shot on the shadow side with the triangle of light looked so much better and then kept a ton of data in the sky. And lastly, we have blue hour. When shooting at blue hour, you can either do 2 things. Either shoot towards the sunset or sunrise, or you can shoot with the light facing your subject. They are both super beneficial, but for different reasons. I shot this scene after the sunset, and it allowed me to capture beautiful colors with 0 clipping because the main source of light was already gone. And on the other side of this is shooting with the light. When the sun is below the horizon, you have extremely soft light, so you can shoot with your subject facing it. And usually at this time, the sky is beautiful on the opposite end of where the sun just set. Moving on to tip number 3, we have weather. And I know we cannot control the weather, but if you plan it right, you can use the weather that you do have to help you achieve better shots. I feel like we all know that with rain and clouds, it's more of a dark and a sad mood, and then with sun, it is more happy and fun, but there are definitely ways that you can use both of these to your advantage. With cloudy skies, they remain extremely similarly lit throughout the entire day, so if you're wanting to do something that stays in the same time frame for this scene, but takes a long time to shoot, then clouds will definitely help mask the movement of time and keep everything consistent. It also helps if you can't shoot at golden hour or blue hour, because it basically turns the entire sky into a giant softbox. And then with sunny weather, you can use it to accentuate color. It really allows for a lot of energy and contrast because the lighting is so direct. I feel like I used to put a little bit too much value on the weather and how it would dictate the feelings of my shots, but if you focus on exposure and color grading, you can usually make cloudy shots not feel sad or lonely. But there is definitely one big benefit with sunny skies. This leads me into tip number 4, which is flares. Most of the time you are shooting with natural light, you will realize that it really isn't anything crazy. Sometimes you will have beautiful sunsets that make the image look really good, but usually it is just a very subtle, natural look. This is where flares come in. They can add so much to even just a simple shot. And I know that they can be used too much or they can become repetitive, but I am still a huge fan. Like, I would probably put a flare in almost every single shot if I could. So this tip isn't really anything super wild, but just try and get some flares. Maybe even use some lenses that have more characteristics to just really highlight themselves in the shots. And now we have the final tip, which is authenticity. This is definitely the most important tip I have learned throughout my personal filmmaking career. You are using natural light. It is real and it is light that is in the world every single day. So use that. Use the naturalness and the rawness that comes with shooting with it. I like to use vintage lenses because they aren't as sharp or they aren't as perfect, so it helps add a little bit more character into my film. And another thing I do is I shoot at higher apertures when I shoot with natural light because it looks more similar to how I actually see the world. I want whoever is watching to feel like they were there and they were with the characters during this sunset or during this scene. And I also tend to shoot more of a documentary style, and this is more handheld shake and then more natural moving shots because, again, it comes down to authenticity. You don't have RGB lights or crazy elaborate color scheme that you came up with in pre-production. You have the sun and some bright ass light. So go outside and shoot something with natural light. Thank you all for watching. Definitely go check out the other half of this video that is focused on using artificial light because I feel like learning both is super valuable and super important. And please like, comment, and subscribe. I really appreciate all of you guys. If you made it this far, thank you so much. I will see you guys next Tuesday at 11 a.m. Bro, I pray that this is in focus.